In a quiet Navy neighborhood, an admiral returning home early hears something she hasn't heard in 3 long years: her daughter's laughter. When she rushes into the garden, she finds a single dad janitor on his knees, guiding her disabled child with nothing but a worn guitar and a gentle voice. What she witnesses in that moment will unravel secrets, heal old wounds, and change all 3 of their lives forever. Before we begin this extraordinary journey of courage, kindness, and second chances, we'd love to have you with us. If stories of hope and heartfelt healing resonate with you, feel welcome to join our channel. Your support helps us bring more uplifting tales to life. Like, share, and subscribe for more moments that warm the heart and lift the spirit. The afternoon sun draped the Hart residence in a soft, honey gold glow as Admiral Marina Hart pushed open the garden gate, her uniform still crisp from the emergency meeting she had left only minutes earlier. She wasn't supposed to be home yet. Her schedule rarely allowed it. For the past 3 years, her life had been a rotation of briefings, combat readiness reports, and medical consultations for her daughter. Always moving, always leading, always bracing for the next crisis. But today felt different. Something in her chest had tugged her back home early, an instinct sharpened by motherhood and years of command. As she stepped into the garden path, lined with lavender and roses, a sound drifted through the air that made her stop cold. A guitar and laughter. Lily's laughter. Her pulse stuttered. Lily hadn't laughed like that bright, musical, unrestrained since before the accident. Since before her little girl had gone quiet, withdrawn, and frightened of taking even a single step without her crutches. Marina moved quietly, almost on instinct, following the sound like a lifeline. She rounded the trellis, then froze. There in the center of her sunlit garden was a man she barely recognized. Brandon Cross, the janitor the base had hired only 3 weeks ago. He knelt on the warm stone walkway, sleeves rolled up, yellow work gloves still on his hands. A battered acoustic guitar sat across his lap, and in front of him, Lily. Her 7-year-old daughter braced on her forearm crutches, standing stronger than Marina had seen in years. Brandon looked up at Lily with a calm, steady warmth. His voice was low, soothing, almost rhythmic. "That's it, kiddo. Feel the ground under your feet. The beat is your anchor. One breath. One step." He strummed a soft, even chord, simple but steady, almost like a heartbeat. Lily lifted her trembling right foot. Marina's breath caught. Lily stepped forward. Wobbly. Fragile. But she stepped. "Good. Good," Brandon murmured, shifting the chord slightly. "Don't rush. Just trust it." Lily giggled, actually giggled as she took another step. Marina's mind roared with questions. Why was he touching her daughter? Who gave him permission? Why was Lily, her cautious, fearful Lily, letting him guide her this way? She snapped out of her shock and surged forward. "Hey!" she shouted louder than she meant to. "What do you think you're doing with my daughter?" Lily startled, nearly losing her balance. Brandon's hand shot out, not to grab her, not to force her, but to steady her crutch gently by the handle. A precise, practiced motion. Protective, but respectful. He rose slowly, lifting both hands in the universal posture of calm surrender. "Admiral Hart," he said quietly. "She's okay. She's safe." The calmness in his voice made Marina even angrier. "You don't get to decide what's safe," she snapped, stepping between him and Lily. "You're a janitor. A janitor. You have no business, none, doing anything like this." Lily tugged weakly at Marina's sleeve. "Mom, please, I was just—" Marina's breath trembled, torn between fear and fury. She examined Lily quickly. No swelling. No tears. No sign of pain. except the small strain of effort in her breathing. Brandon still hadn't moved. He didn't defend himself, didn't argue. He simply waited. Calm. Steady. Like the man was built out of patience and quiet storms. "I know how it looks," he said finally, his tone low but firm. "But Lily asked me to help her. I didn't touch her without permission. I only played the rhythm so she could follow it." Marina scoffed. "Rhythm for physical therapy." Lily spoke again, voice small but brave. "It helps me breathe. Mom, he made it not scary." Marina's anger wavered, just slightly. Still, she glared at Brandon. "Where did you learn any of this? Cleaning floors doesn't qualify you to teach my daughter how to walk." He held her gaze. His eyes were gentle, but behind them was something deeper, something weary, like a man carrying more stories than he was ever willing to tell. "I'm not claiming to teach her anything," Brandon said. "I was just there. She dropped her crutch earlier and got scared. I helped her steady her breathing with a guitar rhythm. She did the rest." Lily nodded earnestly. "He didn't make me do anything, Mom. I wanted to try." Marina shut her eyes for a moment, overwhelmed by a wave of emotion she didn't want to feel. Fear for Lily. Guilt. Confusion. Relief. A mother's heart never truly rested. She finally spoke, voice softer, but no less guarded. And where Marina said slowly, "Did you learn how to help a scared child walk again?" A flicker passed through Brandon's expression. Pain, memory, something unspoken. But instead of answering, he knelt back down beside Lily. "Hey, champ," he whispered. "You did amazing today. But that's enough for now. Your legs worked really hard." Lily beamed at him. "Can we do it again tomorrow?" Brandon looked to Marina, not defiant, not pleading, simply waiting for her command, as if she still outranked him long after he left the service. "If your mom says yes," he said softly. Marina opened her mouth to shut the idea down, but then Lily took a tiny step, just one without guidance. Marina's knees nearly buckled. The world seemed to slow around her, the flutter of petals in the breeze, the sunlight shimmering across the walkway, the soft fading chords of the guitar string still humming in the air. 3 years. 3 years of specialists, therapists, and failed attempts. 3 years of Lily clinging to her crutches like a lifeline. And today, Lily took 2 steps. With a janitor. Marina stood there, stunned, unable to speak, her voice, her authority, her certainty gone. Brandon quietly packed up the guitar, slung it over his shoulder, and gave Marina a respectful nod. "I'll leave you two to your evening," he said, softly stepping back. "Have a good night, Admiral." He turned toward the gate. Lily called after him, waving. "Bye, Mr. Brandon." He smiled at her, warm, gentle, a smile that carried a hint of grief and a trace of hope. And as he walked away, Marina realized something that sent a tremor through her chest. She wasn't angry because he crossed a line. She was angry because she saw a glimpse of something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Marina Hart had commanded destroyers in hostile waters, negotiated with generals twice her age, and stood in briefing rooms where one wrong decision meant lost lives. But none of those moments rattled her the way the image of Brandon Cross kneeling beside her daughter did. That night, the Hart residence was so quiet, it felt like a living thing holding its breath. Lily had fallen asleep early, exhausted from the unexpected burst of effort. Marina stood in the kitchen, still in uniform, palms flat against the counter, replaying the scene in her mind. The lavender-scented breeze, the guitar, the laughter, and Brandon's eyes steady, controlled, carrying something deeper than a janitor's life should hold. She didn't like mysteries, especially not around her daughter, especially not in her own home. So when Brandon knocked on the door at 7:04 p.m., sharp, returning to finish the maintenance request from earlier, she didn't wait a second. Kitchen. Now. Her voice carried the authority of a 4-star admiral. Brandon followed her in without flinching. She pointed to a chair at the table. "Sit." He sat. Marina crossed her arms and stared him down. The kitchen lights reflected off her polished rank insignia, her expression unreadable but intense. "You're going to answer every question I ask," she said. "Clearly. Completely. No evasions. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am." His calmness irritated her. Men usually panicked when she switched into command mode. Brandon simply waited. "Where Marina began, did you learn how to guide a child's gait with a guitar rhythm? That is not a janitor skill." Something flickered in Brandon's eyes. Pain, memory, restraint. He inhaled slowly. "I was a Navy trauma surgeon. Lieutenant Commander." A pause. 14 years. Marina stiffened. That was not a small title. Trauma surgeons did impossible work under fire, under pressure, with lives hanging by threads, but she didn't let him see the reaction. "Why are you mopping floors instead of practicing medicine?" Brandon's jaw flexed. The truth was heavy. She saw it before she heard it. "My wife," he said quietly. "Laura. She was a music therapist. Brilliant. Soft-spoken. She had a gift for calming people who were hurting." His voice softened. "Including me." He paused, swallowing. 3 years ago, we were stationed in Okinawa. A quake hit the northern district while she was volunteering. His breath hitched almost imperceptibly. I got there too late. Marina felt something inside her loosen. Grief, raw and unhidden. "I'm sorry," she murmured despite herself. Brandon nodded once, grateful but guarded. After losing her, I couldn't stay in the operating room. Couldn't touch a scalpel without hearing her voice, without remembering the sound of the building collapsing. Marina could imagine it, the crush of concrete, the chaos, a man trying to save the woman he loved with his bare hands. "And the Navy let you walk away?" she asked. "They tried to keep me." He gave a faint, humorless smile. "But grief doesn't respect rank. My hands were steady, but my heart wasn't. That makes a surgeon dangerous." A long silence stretched between them. Brandon's voice grew firmer. "I took medical leave. Then discharge. I needed to raise my son without expecting the Navy to fix me." "You have a son?" Marina asked, surprised. "Yeah." "Mason. He's 9. Lives with my sister for now until I'm steady again." That hurt her in a way she did not expect, a father stepping away from the world to protect his child from his own brokenness. Marina exhaled slowly. "So that's why you're working as a janitor." "It's quiet," Brandon said. "Predictable. No one's life depends on me sweeping a hallway. But today, Marina pressed. You acted like a doctor again." He shook his head. "No. Today I acted like a human being who saw a scared little girl freeze up." He placed his hands on the table, palms up. Large, scarred, steady hands. Surgeon hands. She was shaking. "You know the look. I'm sure you've seen it in new recruits. Fight or flight. Too much pressure on her chest." He mimicked a small, stuttered breath. "I use the rhythm to regulate it. It's something Laura taught me." Marina swallowed hard. He wasn't lying. Every word felt lived in, earned through pain. "And Lily," she asked, voice softening despite herself. Did she really ask you to help her?" Brandon nodded. She was embarrassed after dropping her crutch. "I told her mistakes were how warriors grow." She liked that. A reluctant warmth flickered in Marina's chest. Yes, that sounded like her daughter, brave, stubborn, quietly determined. "And the steps she took?" Marina asked. "She did that," Brandon said. "Not me. I just played the rhythm." Another silence descended, thicker this time, but gentler. Marina's voice was quieter when she spoke next. "Lily hasn't taken unassisted steps since the accident. Not even with months of specialists." Brandon nodded sympathetically. "I know. she told me. But she also told me she believes she can try again. Marina blinked. Her daughter had said that. To him, Brandon continued his tone, gentle but steady. Kids don't respond to pressure the same way adults do. They respond to trust. Maybe she trusted me because I wasn't her doctor, or because I didn't push her. Marina's throat tightened. For 3 years, she had been trying everything, and Lily had never said she wasn't afraid, or that she wanted to try again. This stranger had somehow cracked open a door she'd been pounding on for so long. She didn't know whether to thank him or fear what it meant. Before she could answer, soft footsteps shuffled into the kitchen. Lily stood in the doorway, her hair rumpled from sleep rubbing one eye. "Mom," she whispered. "Is Brandon in trouble?" Marina froze. Brandon turned gently in his chair. "No, kiddo," he said softly. "Your mom's just asking me questions." Lily's gaze flicked between them, worry deepening on her small face. "Mom, can I train with him again tomorrow?" The room fell silent. Marina felt her heart twist. She looked at Brandon, this quiet, broken man with surgeon hands, and at Lily, her hopeful little girl. She thought of the laugh she had heard earlier, the one she thought she had lost forever. "Tomorrow," Marina repeated, her voice nearly a whisper. Lily nodded hard. Brandon didn't speak. He simply waited, letting her make the call. Finally, Marina exhaled long, tired and trembling. "We'll see," she managed. "Get some sleep, sweetheart." Lily smiled sleepily. "Good night, Mom." "Good night, Brandon." "Good night, Lily." She disappeared down the hallway. Brandon stood picking up his toolkit. "I'll get out of your way, Admiral." But when he reached the door, Marina's voice stopped him. "Brandon." He turned. Marina swallowed, choosing her words carefully. "Thank you for being there today." Brandon nodded, once the gesture, humble, almost reverent. "That's what we're supposed to do," he said softly. "Be there for each other." Then he stepped into the night, leaving Marina alone with the quiet truth she didn't know how to face. Her daughter trusted him, and that terrified her almost as much as it gave her hope. Morning sunlight spilled into the Hart living room in long stripes, painting the hardwood floor with soft gold. Marina stood alone beside the mantel, staring at the small screen embedded into the wall, the home security system. She hadn't slept much. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Brandon kneeling behind Lily, guiding her breathing with the steady pulse of a guitar string. She hadn't meant to check the cameras, but a mother's fear is stronger than pride. With a deep breath, she tapped the screen. Playback initiated. Garden. 15:32 hours. The footage flickered to life. There he was, Brandon Cross strumming a small chord progression, while Lily balanced on her crutches. The camera angle wasn't perfect, but it caught everything Marina had missed. His patience, the way he adjusted the rhythm for Lily's breath, how he kept his distance unless she asked. And what struck Marina most was how gentle he was. Not the fragile kind of gentle, the grounded kind, the kind born from loss and compassion, not weakness. Brandon's voice in the recording was calm and measured. One breath in, hold. Let the air settle in your chest. There, that's it. Follow the beat, kiddo. I'm right here. Lily's laughter followed that bright, airy sound. Marina thought she had lost forever. Marina pressed a hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. What man plays music like this? For a child who isn't his. She fast-forwarded. Another scene appeared, Lily sitting on one of her crutches looking discouraged. Brandon sat cross-legged beside her guitar, resting on his knee. "Lily, I'm scared to stand. It hurts, and I fall." Brandon, "You know what? Falling is proof you're still fighting." He tapped the guitar lightly. This isn't music. It's courage in a different shape. Lily giggled. Music can be courage. Brandon nodded. Music saved my life once, saved people I cared about. And now, it's helping you breathe. Marina froze. Music saved my life once. She thought of Laura, the wife he lost, the quake, the memories that broke his hands even when they stayed steady. She pressed play again. Brandon adjusted Lily's posture, not touching her, simply guiding with words and rhythm. Let your shoulders loosen. Don't overthink it. You're stronger than you know. Lily, how do you know? Brandon paused. Because strength isn't always about the legs, sweetheart. Sometimes it starts here. He tapped the guitar, once the single note vibrating like a heart. The footage then showed Lily taking that first tiny step, the one Marina had nearly stumbled witnessing in real time. Her daughter, fragile and determined, stepping into a future she hadn't dared dream of. Marina's eyes burned. She sank onto the sofa, shaken. In every frame, Brandon looked like someone who had lost everything, yet still found a way to give. This wasn't a man trying to cross boundaries. This was a man trying to keep another child from feeling the same helplessness he once felt. The video ended. Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. She stared at the blank screen, unsure whether to feel gratitude or fear that she had misunderstood him entirely. Footsteps padded down the stairs. Mom Lily's small voice broke the stillness. Are you mad at Brandon? Marina stiffened. No, sweetheart. Why do you ask? Because you were loud yesterday? I thought you didn't like him. Marina crouched to meet her daughter's eyes. I'm not mad at him. I was scared. Scared of what Marina hesitated, and Lily filled the silence with the blunt innocence only a child could carry. Mom, he believes in me. And when someone believes in you, it feels like you can do things again. The words landed like a strike to the chest. Belief. That was something Marina hadn't been able to give Lily without overwhelming her. She pulled her daughter close. I believe in you too, she whispered. I know, Lily said softly. But sometimes, believing hurts you. Brandon doesn't look like he hurts. Marina's heart twisted. If only Lily knew the truth. If only she knew how much this quiet man carried. Later that afternoon, Marina found herself in her office at the base, staring at Brandon's file. She had full clearance, of course. Being the commanding officer had its advantages. But as she scrolled, her breath slowed. Lieutenant Commander Brandon Cross, U.S. Navy Medical Corps decorations, Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal, Navy Humanitarian Service Medal, Letter of Commendation, Pacific Fleet Command, Joint Service Achievement Medal, a decorated trauma surgeon, a man who saved lives in impossible circumstances. And then, final evaluation report, Medical Board. The subject shows no physical impairment. However, emotional trauma from the Okinawa disaster may affect clinical judgment. Recommend extended leave or reassignment away from high-pressure medical roles. So he walked away, into silence, into invisibility, and somehow found his way to her garden, to her daughter, to a moment that changed everything. A knock on the door jolted Marina from her thoughts. Admiral Chief Ramsey poked his head in. You've got the updated training schedules. Also, the janitorial staff reported finishing last night's maintenance. Marina straightened. Did Brandon Cross check in this morning? Yes, ma'am. Quiet guy. Works double shifts. Doesn't talk much. Does he interact with anyone? Ramsey shrugged. Helps when he sees someone carrying too much. Fixes things he's not assigned to. Just does it. Marina dismissed the chief, but something small, warm, and stubborn took root in her chest. She had judged him too quickly, too harshly, and too blindly. That evening, as she picked Lily up from school, the little girl bounced slightly on her crutches. something Marina hadn't seen in years. Mom Lily said breathlessly, "My legs don't feel as scared today." Marina bit her lip. "Why is that?" Because Lily whispered, eyes shining, "Someone believed I could walk." Marina stopped beside the car, staring at her daughter's fragile determination. "Lily," she asked gently, "why do you trust him so much?" Lily looked up with absolute sincerity. "Because he listens to me. And because I think he needs a friend, too." Those words cracked the last defenses around Marina's heart. That night, as Lily slept, Marina stood at the window looking toward the distant barracks. Somewhere out there was a man who had lost his wife, who was trying to put himself back together, and who somehow had given her daughter something she thought was gone forever. Not just courage. Hope, and for the first time in a long time, Admiral Marina Hart said the words silently to herself, as though confessing a secret to the night baby. "I judged him wrong. Maybe he isn't just a janitor. Maybe he's exactly the person we needed." The next day unfolded under a sky the color of soft steel, the kind that promised rain but held itself back. Brandon arrived at the Hart residence just after sunrise, not to see Lily, not to play guitar, simply to complete the remaining maintenance tasks on Marina's property. That was all he intended to do. In and out. Quietly. But nothing about the Hart household felt simple anymore. Marina watched him from the kitchen window as he crouched beside the garden lights, adjusting a loose wire. His movements were meticulous, almost surgical. There was a steadiness in the way he handled even the smallest task, as if precision had been carved into his bones. It made sense, of course. He had spent years cutting into human flesh to save lives, but it was still jarring to see someone so skilled, choosing to remain invisible. She stepped outside before she could talk herself out of it. Brandon rose immediately, wiping his hands on a cloth tucked into his pocket. "Morning, Admiral. Good morning." She clasped her hands behind her back, more officer than mother, in that moment. "I'd like to speak with you. Inside." He nodded, not surprised, not defensive, merely accepting. "Yes, ma'am." They entered the living room. For a moment they stood in silence, surrounded by framed photos of Lily in her wheelchair, holding her service dog in training, smiling shyly into the camera. Each picture was a reminder of a past Marina wished she could rewrite. She cleared her throat. I reviewed the camera footage. Brandon stiffened. Not visibly, but enough that Marina's trained eyes noticed. "I know," he said quietly. "You should. You're her mother." Marina studied him. "I also reviewed your military file." This time the reaction was unmistakable, a flicker of pain crossing his features before he smoothed it away. "You're a complicated man, Brandon Cross," she said softly. "I'm a simple one, Admiral. Just trying to stay standing." He looked toward the window, avoiding her gaze. But Marina wasn't someone easily evaded. "Why did you leave?" she asked, voice low. "I know the official reason. Emotional trauma. But that's not the whole truth." He hesitated, shoulders tightening under an invisible weight. Then he sank into a chair, as though the memories were too heavy to hold standing. "It wasn't just Laura's death," he said at last. "It was everything around it." Marina sat across from him, waiting. He exhaled slowly. "We were in Okinawa. She was teaching music therapy at a children's center. It was supposed to be a slow day, a few lessons, some volunteer work. I was on call at the base hospital." His voice grew quieter. "When the quake hit, it felt like the world split open. I ran into the streets, ignoring protocol, just trying to get to her. Marina could picture it, the chaos, the dust, the screams, the aftershocks hammering the earth. She was trapped under a collapsed beam," Brandon continued, still conscious, still talking. "She told me to play a rhythm on the metal pipe near her ear, said it helped her stay awake." Marina's breath hitched. She was bleeding internally. "I knew it." His hands trembled barely but enough to betray the truth. I tried to stabilize her, but the weight was too heavy. We needed equipment. And time. We had neither. A long, broken pause. She died with my hands on hers, still listening to that rhythm. His voice cracked on the last word. Silence filled the room like a wound. Marina felt something inside her shift, an ache, a tenderness she didn't know how to express. She had never lost a spouse, but she had lost soldiers, friends, people she was responsible for. And she recognized the hollow tone of a person who replayed one moment over and over, begging for a different ending. "Brandon," she began, but he shook his head. "I'm not telling you this for pity. You asked for truth." He ran a hand over his face. "After Laura died, I tried to go back to surgery, but every time I held a scalpel, my hands remembered that day. The dust, the blood, her heartbeat slowing." He swallowed hard. I couldn't trust myself. So I stepped down, took Mason to my sister, tried to rebuild, and ended up here, Marina said quietly. He nodded. A janitor job looked stable, safe. No one bleeding out in my hands. Just floors, just walls. Marina leaned back, studying him closely. This wasn't a man running from responsibility. This was a man drowning in it. "And the music?" she asked gently. "That was Laura's," he said. "She used rhythms to guide patients through trauma. Kids, veterans, anyone whose body forgot how to trust itself. She taught me everything she knew. After the quake, I couldn't touch a guitar for almost 2 years." His eyes softened with something that resembled surprise. "But when I saw Lily freeze up, it all came back. Like Laura's hands were guiding mine." He looked up finally, meeting Marina's gaze with quiet honesty. "Your daughter reminds me of the kids Laura worked with. Brave, afraid, hopeful. She listens with her whole heart, and she tries with everything she has." Marina felt her throat tighten. She had spent years trying to pull Lily out of fear. Brandon had done the opposite. He had met Lily inside her. Fear sat with her in it and showed her she could move through it. No pressure, no expectations, just belief. Marina cleared her throat, trying to maintain composure. "Why didn't you tell me this yesterday?" He gave a small, weary smile. "Because I'm not proud of the man I am right now." "You should be," she said before she could stop herself. Brandon blinked, startled. "You should be," she repeated quietly. "You gave my daughter something I haven't been able to give her in years. Hope." He didn't answer, didn't push, didn't seek recognition. He simply lowered his gaze, humble in a way that made Marina's chest ache. Before either of them could speak again, Lily descended the stairs, dragging her crutches behind her. "Mom," she said, spotting Brandon. "Is Brandon here to train with me again?" Marina hesitated. Brandon waited, hands still in his lap. Lily held her breath, eyes bright with expectation. Finally, Marina nodded slowly. "If you'd like, we can try another session today." Lily beamed. Brandon stood, offering a respectful, hopeful smile, the kind that said he wasn't sure he deserved a place in their world, but he would give everything if allowed to stay. And Marina realized something quietly, profoundly true. This man hadn't just lost a wife, he had lost himself. And somehow, in helping Lily stand again, he might just find a way to stand too. The afternoon sun filtered gently through the garden canopy, painting shifting patches of gold across the grass. It was a peaceful day, so deceptively peaceful that Marina didn't realize how fragile the calm truly was. Brandon arrived quietly, as he always did. No fanfare, no need for acknowledgement. He simply slipped into the garden with his guitar on his back and a soft greeting for Lily, who was already waiting on the stone path, excitement lighting her eyes. "Ready for round 2, champ?" he asked. Lily nodded with an energy Marina hadn't seen in years. I'm ready. I practiced holding my breath, like you taught me." Marina smiled faintly. There was something about Brandon's presence, steadfast, gentle, grounded, that made the air feel lighter. She had begun to trust him even if she wasn't ready to say it aloud. But trust is a delicate thing, and even healing requires caution. Brandon knelt beside Lily, tuning the guitar with practiced fingers. "Okay," he murmured. "We're not in a rush. Just listen to the beat. One sound, one breath, one small step." He strummed a slow rhythm, soft, warm, familiar. Lily inhaled deeply, her chest rising and falling in time with the music. Marina watched, arms crossed, not in suspicion anymore, but in a mother's nervous anticipation. She wanted this. She feared this. She was terrified of hope, because hope had betrayed her before. But today Lily looked stronger, taller somehow. Her legs weren't shaking as much. Her back was straighter. "Mom, watch me," Lily chirped. Brandon smiled. "All right, let's go for one step. Just one." Lily nodded. She didn't go for one. She went for three. Her small foot lifted, touched the ground, then the next, a determined rhythm matching Brandon's strumming. "That's it. Easy, easy," Brandon whispered. Marina held her breath, afraid to break the moment. And then in one devastating instant, everything collapsed. Lily reached too far forward, trying to impress Brandon, pushing past her limits. Her left leg buckled sharply. Her crutch slipped on the dew-slick grass. She fell. Not gently. Not in a controlled way. Her little body crumpled to the ground with a small, sharp cry that sliced through the garden like shattered glass. Lily Marina lunged forward, heart pounding. Brandon reacted just as fast, but he slammed his hands to the ground instead of touching the girl, forcing himself to stop inches before reaching her. A reflex warred with discipline inside him, the instinct of a surgeon versus the boundary of a mother's trust. Marina gathered Lily into her arms, trembling. "Oh, God. Baby, are you okay? Lily, talk to me." Lily sobbed, clutching at her knee, her face twisted in pain, tears streaking down her cheeks. "It hurts. It hurts." Brandon's voice was tight, though controlled, her knee overextended. The joint locked up. "It looks painful, but it's not a permanent injury." Marina whipped her head toward him, fury blazing. "You don't get to tell me that." "You don't get to say anything right now." Brandon froze. His jaw clenched, but he didn't defend himself. Marina lifted Lily, cradling her gently, as if lifting glass. "This is why she snapped. This is why I didn't want you near her." "You pushed her. You pushed her too far." Brandon's eyes widened with shock. "I didn't push her, Admiral. She moved on her own." Marina cut him off, her voice shaking with rage and fear. "You don't have the right to be involved in her therapy. You're not a doctor anymore. You're a janitor." The last word hit harder than she intended, like a hammer striking an old wound. Brandon flinched. Not much, but enough. Lily sobbed harder at the rising tension clinging to Marina's uniform. Brandon swallowed, forcing his voice steady. "I'm sorry, Admiral. I misjudged the moment. I should have stopped her sooner." "You're right about that," Marina snapped. "You should have, and now she's hurt." Brandon lowered his gaze, shame rippling through his posture. "I take full responsibility." Marina shook her head sharply. "No. What you're going to do is leave." Brandon stiffened. "If that's what you want, it's not what I want," Marina hissed. "It's what's best for my daughter." The words came out colder than ice. "Get out." He blinked. Just once. Then he nodded slowly, the acceptance cutting deeper than anger ever could. "Yes, ma'am." He stepped back farther than he needed to, creating a space wider than the garden itself. He didn't offer excuses, didn't argue, didn't even look at Lily. He simply slung the guitar over his shoulder and walked away with quiet, deliberate steps. No goodbye. No explanation. No plea. He disappeared through the gate just as the first drop of rain hit the earth. Lily's tiny voice trembled through her tears. "Mom, is Brandon mad at me?" Marina held her close, pressing her cheek to her daughter's hair. "No, sweetheart. Of course not. You just got hurt. That's all." But Lily shook her head, eyes filled with something far deeper than physical pain. "I wanted him to be proud of me," she whispered. "Did I ruin everything?" Marina felt her heart crack open, but she couldn't speak. Not yet. As the rain began to fall harder, washing over the silent garden, Marina carried Lily inside. She wrapped her daughter in blankets, kissed her forehead, and whispered soothing words she herself didn't believe. But long after Lily drifted to sleep, Marina sat alone in the dimly lit hallway, her head in her hands. Her daughter was hurt. Her trust was shaken. Her fear was louder than her reason. And yet, even through her anger, a truth lingered like a bruise. Brandon hadn't looked defensive, or careless, or guilty of anything but caring too much. He had looked devastated, because he knew exactly what it meant to fail someone you were trying to save. Rain arrived the next morning, without mercy. Steady cold, unrelenting. It washed across the base housing units, tapping against windows and rooftops, like a quiet warning. But inside the Hart residence, the silence was heavier than the storm. Lily did not get out of bed. Marina stood in her daughter's doorway, arms folded tightly, watching the small rise and fall of Lily's blanket. The girl wasn't asleep. Marina knew the difference. She was curled inward, facing the wall, her crutches leaning untouched against the dresser. "Sweetheart," Marina whispered, "breakfast is ready." No response. "I made your favorite blueberry pancakes." Still nothing. Not even a twitch. A knot tightened in Marina's stomach. She walked over, sat gently at the edge of the bed, and brushed a hand through Lily's hair. "Honey, talk to me." Lily's voice came out small, muffled by the pillow. "Did I make Brandon go away?" Marina closed her eyes. There it was, the question she feared. "No," she said softly, but the moment the word left her mouth, she knew Lily didn't believe it. Nor did she. Lily shifted slightly, wincing from the soreness in her knee. "He didn't come back." Marina swallowed. "I told him to leave yesterday." Lily turned, slowly lifting her face. Her eyes were red, but not from pain, from guilt. Because of me, Marina's throat tightened. She gathered Lily into her arms. "No, sweetheart. You were brave. You were trying. You didn't do anything wrong." "But he left," Lily whispered. "I hurt myself and he didn't even say goodbye." The words made Marina flinch. Brandon hadn't said goodbye, because she hadn't given him the chance. She kissed Lily's forehead. "He left because I was scared. I reacted too strongly." Lily looked down, voice trembling. I just wanted him to be proud of me." Marina felt something deep inside her crack open. She had tried so hard to protect Lily that she had forgotten something crucial. A child's heart is fragile, but it is also brave. And Lily had finally found someone who made her feel safe enough to try again. Marina's voice grew gentle, almost regretful. "Baby, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. Not to Brandon, not even to me." But Lily shook her head. "You don't understand, Mom. When he was here, it felt like my legs weren't scared." Her voice broke. "Now they're scared again." Marina's chest tightened. She pulled Lily closer, but her daughter didn't melt into her arms the way she usually did. Instead, she stayed stiff, hurt in a way Marina couldn't soothe, and that terrified her. The house felt emptier without Brandon, not because he lived there, but because something of him lingered in the air, the soft echo of his guitar, the warmth of his voice, guiding Lily the rhythm that had given her courage. Now the house felt hollow. Even the garden seemed to sense the absence. The lavender lay flattened under the rain, and the stone path where Lily had taken her brave steps sat silently still, bearing faint marks from where she had fallen. Marina paced the living room, guilt and frustration swirling inside her. She knew she had overreacted. She knew anger had come from fear, not reason. But yesterday, she had watched her daughter fall, and in those seconds, years of helplessness had crashed back over her like a wave. She had taken it out on the wrong person. A knock pulled her from her thoughts. It wasn't Brandon. She knew it before opening the door. It was Lieutenant Evans from the base's physical therapy unit holding a clipboard. "Admiral Hart, you requested updated PT scheduling for Lily." "Yes, thank you," Marina replied. Evans hesitated. "How's she doing?" Marina forced a tight smile. "She's resting. She's a brave kid," he said kindly. "But recovery takes time. Confidence takes even longer." Marina nodded. "I know." He gave her a sympathetic look. Sometimes kids respond better to people they connect with emotionally. It's not about credentials. It's about comfort. The words struck a nerve, and Evans left unaware of the small earthquake he triggered in Marina's mind. Later, while tidying Lily's room, Marina spotted something under the pillows, scraps of paper lightly crumpled. She pulled them out and unfolded them. A drawing. Childlike, shaky lines, bright colors. Lily had drawn herself, Brandon, and Marina. The three of them holding hands in a sunny garden. Brandon had a guitar slung across his back. Marina had a smile she rarely wore these days. And Lily. Lily had no crutches. Her legs were drawn strong and straight. Marina's breath caught. This wasn't just a drawing. It was a wish. A future Lily could imagine only because of him. Mom Lily's voice came from behind her. Marina turned. "Yes, sweetheart." Lily climbed onto the bed, slowly wincing. "Are you mad at Brandon?" Marina knelt down, her voice softening. "No, I wasn't mad at him. I was scared. And when adults get scared, we sometimes say things we don't mean." Lily looked heartbreakingly small. "So you didn't mean it?" Marina closed the distance and held her daughter's hands. "No, baby, I didn't." Lily's next question was barely a whisper. Can you tell him that the words went straight to Marina's heart? She brushed a tear from Lily's cheek. "I will." Today Marina hesitated. The weight of her pride, the remnants of her fear clung stubbornly to her chest. But looking into Lily's hopeful eyes, she knew there was only one answer that mattered. "Yes," she said finally. "Today." Lily exhaled, her shoulders relaxing for the first time since the fall. "Okay," she whispered. "Because when Brandon was here, Mom, it felt like there was music in the house. And now," Marina asked gently. Lily pressed her face into Marina's shoulder. "Now it feels quiet." Marina closed her eyes, holding her daughter tightly. The truth settled over her, with the weight of something undeniable. Brandon Cross hadn't just helped Lily walk. He had brought something back into their lives, something Marina herself hadn't been able to give since the accident. Hope, courage, music. And without him, the house felt unbearably silent. That evening, after Lily fell asleep, Marina stood at the front door with her coat in hand. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the night was still heavy, still cold. She stepped outside, breathing in the damp air, and whispered to herself, "It's time to fix what I broke." She locked the door behind her and went searching for the man who had changed everything. Marina Hart had never been afraid of knocking on doors. She had commanded fleets-led rescue operations and faced down hostile commanders with nothing but a steel gaze and unwavering voice. But tonight, under the dim streetlights of the base housing district, she hesitated before every step. She wasn't Admiral Hart right now. She wasn't the woman who carried the weight of a naval command. She was simply a mother, one who knew she had hurt someone who didn't deserve it. Brandon's address was listed as Unit 14B, a small aging building near the edge of the base, far from the officer homes, far from noise, far from anyone who might notice him. She found the stairwell and climbed each step, echoing slightly in the damp night. Rain clung to her shoulders, dripping down the back of her coat, but she didn't care. At the top, she saw it 14B. The door was old paint, peeling at the edges, but the doormat was carefully swept. A pair of neatly arranged work boots sat to the left, still damp from the rain. The hall smelled faintly of citrus cleaner, the same brand she'd seen him use in her home. Marina swallowed, raised her hand, and knocked. Once. Twice. Then silence. A second later, the door cracked open. Brandon appeared in the narrow gap, wearing a faded gray t-shirt and loose joggers. Hair still wet from a shower. He looked tired, the kind of tired that didn't come from lack of sleep, but from days weighted with emotion. When he saw her, his brows lifted slightly. Admiral Hart. His voice was steady, respectful, but distant. A wall had risen between them, Brandon Marina said quietly. "May I come in?" A pause. Then he opened the door fully and stepped aside. She entered the small apartment and froze. It was sparsely furnished, just a couch, a coffee table, a single shelf with a few books, and a framed picture. The carpet was clean, the counter spotless, everything arranged with the precision of someone who didn't want to take up space. Her gaze drifted to the picture on the shelf. A woman with warm eyes, long brown hair, and a guitar in her lap smiled into the lens. Sitting beside her, a young boy, Mason, leaned into her shoulder laughing. Brandon followed her gaze. "That was taken a few months before Okinawa," he said softly. Laura was teaching Mason a chord. Marina nodded, unable to look away from the photograph. There was so much life in it, so much love, and so much absence now. She turned to him. "Brandon, I came to apologize." He didn't react, didn't soften, didn't step closer. So she continued. "I was angry and afraid. And when Lily fell, I lashed out at the first person I saw." "It's understandable," Brandon murmured. "You were protecting her." "No," Marina said firmly. "I wasn't protecting her. I was protecting myself from feeling powerless again. And I took it out on you." Finally, something flickered in his eyes, something like wounded understanding. Brandon exhaled slowly. "I should have been more careful." Lily pushed herself too far. "She did," Marina agreed. "But that wasn't your fault." He gave a faint, pained smile. "I've heard that before. The day Laura died, everyone kept telling me it wasn't my fault. Didn't make it true." Marina stepped closer, her voice gentler now. "Brandon, this isn't the same." But he shook his head. "Pain echoes Admiral. Doesn't matter where it comes from. The honesty cut through her." "Don't call me Admiral right now," Marina said quietly. He raised an eyebrow. "Then what should I call you, Marina?" Silence stretched between them, not cold, but fragile. A truce. He set his hands in his pockets. "Why did you really come?" Marina hesitated only a moment. "Because Lily misses you. She thinks she did something wrong." Brandon's jaw tightened. "She didn't," he said instantly, fiercely. "She was brave. She tried." Marina nodded. "I know. And she needs to hear that from you." He looked away, shoulders rising and falling in a slow breath. "I'm not sure she should see me again," he admitted. "I don't want to confuse her. Or interfere." "You're not interfering," Marina said, stepping forward. "You gave her something no doctor, no specialist could give her." She paused, searching for the right words. You gave her courage. Brandon closed his eyes briefly, as if those words hurt and healed him at the same time. She asked if she made you upset, Marina added softly. She thinks you left because of her. His eyes snapped open. That broke through. Lily thinks that he asked, voice unsteady. Yes. He swallowed, guilt washing over him. I didn't want her to think I abandoned her. I know, Marina said gently. But she's 7. She doesn't understand the difference between guilt and caution. She paused again. Brandon, please, come back. Not as a doctor, not as anything official, just as the person she trusts. He studied her for a long moment. You sure I am? Finally, Brandon nodded slowly, carefully, like someone afraid the world might shift beneath him. All right, he said softly. I'll come. Relief spread through Marina's chest, but it was followed by something else, something she didn't have the courage to name yet. They sat together for a while, each carrying truths they weren't ready to speak. Outside, the rain softened into a gentle drizzle. The storm was passing. When Marina stood to leave, Brandon walked her to the door. I'll be there tomorrow morning, he said. She nodded. Lily will be happy. Brandon glanced down, voice quiet. I hope so. I miss her too. That truth lingered in the air like a soft confession. Marina stepped into the hallway, then paused. She looked back at him, this quiet, steady man who carried grief like a shadow, but still found light for her daughter. Brandon, she said gently. Thank you for letting me in. He nodded with a humility that tugged at her heart. Anytime, Marina. The door closed softly between them, and as she walked down the quiet stairwell, Marina realized something with sudden clarity. She had not only gone searching for him because Lily needed him. She had gone because part of her needed him too. The next morning dawned with a soft, pearly glow. Sunlight filtered through thin clouds, as if the sky itself was trying not to disturb the fragile hope that had begun to form. Marina stood in the kitchen pouring Lily's cereal while glancing at the clock every few seconds. 8:03 a.m., 3 minutes late. Not that she expected military precision from him, but something inside her, some quiet yearning or quiet fear, kept checking the minute hand. Lily sat at the table, hair slightly messy, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Mom, she whispered anxiously, do you think he'll come? Marina crouched beside her chair, brushing a hand through her daughter's soft hair. Yes, she said gently. I do think he'll come. But her heart was beating faster than her words allowed. At 8:05, a soft knock tapped against the door. Lily gasped, eyes lighting up like a sunrise. Mom, Mom, he's here. Marina's heart dropped and rose at the same time. She walked to the door, inhaled deeply, and opened it. Brandon stood there, still the same worn gray hoodie, still the same quiet posture. But there was something softer in his expression today, something like relief, something like resolve. Good morning, he said, voice low but warm. Before Marina could answer, Lily's small voice burst through. Brandon, her crutches clicked frantically as she hurried forward, nearly colliding with him in an impulsive hug. Brandon froze, caught off guard, then slowly, carefully placed his hand on her back. Hey, kiddo, he murmured. I missed you. Marina watched the moment with her chest tightening in a way she didn't expect. Something about the way he said it, soft but sincere, made her feel like she was witnessing something sacred. Lily pulled back, eyes shining. Are we training today? Brandon hesitated, glancing at Marina for permission. She gave a quiet nod. Yes. We're all here. All. It was a small word, but it changed everything. They went out to the garden where the lavender was still damp from yesterday's rain. The stone path where Lily had fallen remained untouched, a reminder of fear and possibility tangled together. Brandon set his guitar case down carefully. "I want to start slow today," he said. "Only if you're feeling up for it." "I am," Lily chirped. Marina knelt beside her. "We'll go gently, sweetheart." Brandon looked at Marina with a hint of surprise. "You're joining us?" Marina straightened her shoulders. "Yes. I want to learn." He blinked, then nodded. "Okay. Then today, I'm teaching both of you." He sat cross-legged on the grass, opening his guitar. The low, familiar chords rolled out gently warm as sunlight. Lily inhaled deeply, sinking her breath to the rhythm. Brandon turned to Marina. "Put your hands around her upper legs here," he instructed softly. "Not to lift, just to feel her muscles." Marina knelt behind Lily, placing her palms carefully around her daughter's thighs. She felt the tremor of the small muscles firing the tension gathering. "Good," Brandon said. "Now breathe with her." Marina inhaled. Lily inhaled. And for the first time, they moved as one. "Feel where the strength is," Brandon continued. "And where the fear is," Marina swallowed. She could feel it. The small quiver under Lily's skin that had nothing to do with weakness, and everything to do with memory. "She's bracing too hard on the left," Marina murmured. Brandon smiled softly. "Exactly. You're reading her well." That tiny praise sent warmth through her, unexpected and unsettling. Brandon leaned closer, not touching, not crowding, but guiding. "Music can do half the work," he said. "Love does the rest." Marina stiffened, suddenly aware of how close he was, but he didn't notice, or pretended not to. He strummed again, slower this time. "Okay, Lily," he whispered. "One step. I'm right here. Your mom's right behind you." Lily shifted slightly. Her crutches steadied. Her breath synced with the guitar. She stepped. Not far. Not perfectly. But she stepped. Marina's breath caught. Brandon nodded, eyes soft. "Good. Very good." Lily's face lit up with pure joy. "Did you see, Mom? I didn't fall this time." Marina wrapped her arms around her daughter. "I saw, baby. I saw everything." Then, as Lily steadied herself, Marina looked over Lily's shoulder at Brandon. He wasn't beaming. He wasn't triumphant. He looked grateful, like he was witnessing a miracle he didn't dare take credit for. And for a moment, Marina understood Brandon wasn't healing Lily alone. Lily was healing him too. After the session, Lily rested on the porch swing, sipping water, while Marina and Brandon stood near the garden gate. "Thank you," Marina said quietly. Brandon shook his head. "No, she did all the work." "You guided her?" Marina replied. He hesitated, then spoke in a low voice. "You know, I didn't expect you to come to my apartment yesterday." "I needed to," she admitted. Brandon looked down, hands in his pockets. "Lily means a lot to me." "More than I expected." Marina felt her breath catch. "I know." He finally met her eyes. "She reminds me what courage looks like," he said softly. "I forgot for a while." Marina's chest tightened. "And you remind her she's not alone," she replied. For a moment they simply stood there, two wounded adults bound together by a child's fragile hope. Brandon cleared his throat. "We can keep working together, but only if you're comfortable." Marina thought about fear, about trust, about how her daughter's face lit up when Brandon was near. "I am comfortable," she said finally. "And Lily needs you." Brandon exhaled a soft, relieved breath. "And you?" he asked quietly. Marina held his gaze. "I'm learning," she said. "Learning how to trust again." He nodded slowly. "Then we'll take it one step at a time." Just like Lily. As Brandon packed up his guitar, Lily called out from the porch swing. "Mom, Brandon, can we train again tomorrow?" Marina and Brandon exchanged a look, something warm, unspoken, hopeful. "Tomorrow," Marina said. Brandon smiled gently. Tomorrow, kiddo." And as the sun dipped low behind the garden, Marina realized something that startled her. She wasn't counting the minutes out of worry anymore. She was counting them in anticipation. Because Brandon's return hadn't just brought back music. It had brought back something she thought was gone forever. Hope. The next week arrived like a gentle tide, quiet, steady, full of small movements that only revealed their power in hindsight. Each morning, Brandon came by before his janitorial shift. Each evening, Marina found herself watching Lily with a mix of awe and fear as the little girl tried, stumbled, recovered, and tried again. And somehow, amid the steps and breaths and musical rhythms, something else unfolded too. Something softer, more delicate. Trust. Not just from Lily, but from Marina. It grew slowly like the lavender in her garden, unnoticed at first, then suddenly full and fragrant. On the 7th day, the weather was perfect. A warm breeze swept across the base, carrying the scent of blooming roses. The garden glowed beneath a late afternoon sun, turning everything gold and soft. Brandon sat on the grass guitar, resting lightly in his lap. Lily stood a few feet away, hands gripping her crutches, but the grip wasn't desperate anymore. It was steady, confident. Marina sat nearby, closer than in previous sessions, her palms warm against Lily's legs as she checked for tension. Brandon tuned the strings with slow, deliberate turns of his fingers. "All right, champ," he murmured. "I want you to listen to something today. Something special." He shifted into a melody Marina had never heard before, not the simple chords he usually played. This one was gentler, more intricate. It felt familiar somehow, though she couldn't place why. Lily's head tilted. "That's pretty." Brandon's eyes softened. "It's a song Laura wrote," he said quietly. "She used it for children who were scared. She said the notes felt like someone holding your hand." Marina's breath caught. This wasn't just therapy. This was legacy. Brandon looked at Lily. "You ready?" Lily nodded. "Okay," he whispered. "Then, follow the notes." He began to play. The melody drifted through the garden with a softness that felt almost sacred, delicate, yet steady like a lullaby woven with courage instead of sleep. Lily inhaled deeply, her shoulders relaxed, the tremor in her knees eased. Brandon strummed again, slower this time. "One breath," he said. "Feel the ground under you." Lily planted her right foot. Her muscles tightened, not with fear, but determination. Now Brandon continued gently. "When you're ready, step forward." Marina held her own breath. She could feel Lily's legs twitch beneath her hands, searching, trusting, remembering. Lily lifted her left foot. Then, with a small, uncertain exhale, she stepped. Brandon's voice stayed soft, steady, hopeful. "That's it. Let the rhythm guide you." Lily took another step, then another. Marina's eyes widened. She gently released Lily's leg, letting her move without support, ready to catch her, but not holding her back. Lily walked. 4 steps. 5. 6. Her crutches barely touched the ground. Marina's heart pounded so hard she could barely hear anything but her own pulse. Her throat tightened, her vision blurred. "Mom," Lily cried joyfully. "Mom, look." Marina covered her mouth as tears spilled down her cheeks. "I'm looking, baby," she whispered, voice cracking. "I'm looking." Brandon rose, slowly, still playing, but now his hand shook, not from fear, but from emotion too powerful to hide. Lily took step number 7 and 8. Then she stopped breathing hard, but smiling so widely it lit the entire garden. Brandon let the final chord fade into the warm air. "You did it," he whispered. "Lily, you walked." Lily turned around, face shining. "I walked. Mom, I walked." Marina rushed to her, dropping to her knees. and pulling her daughter into her arms. They cried together, Lily laughing through her tears, Marina unable to speak, overwhelmed by pride, relief and gratitude so deep it felt like prayer. Brandon watched them quietly, guitar hanging loosely from his hand. He stepped back, not wanting to intrude on their moment. But Marina looked up through her tears and saw him there, standing in the sunlight, like someone caught between past and present. "Brandon," she whispered, voice trembling. "Come here." He hesitated, then walked slowly toward them. Lily extended her arms. "Brandon, we did it. You said I could do it, and I did." Brandon knelt beside her, eyes shining with emotion he didn't bother to hide. "I only helped," he said softly. "You're the one who was brave." Lily threw her arms around his neck, and he held her gently, awkwardly at first, then with growing confidence. For a moment, the three of them knelt there in the sunlight, like a small, imperfect, miraculous family. Marina reached out and placed a hand on Brandon's arm. "Thank you," she whispered, "for giving her a chance. For giving her this." Brandon swallowed hard. "Marina." But he couldn't finish. His voice broke, so Marina finished for him. "You didn't just help her walk," she murmured. "You helped her believe." He closed his eyes, steadying himself. "She helped me believe too," he said quietly. "More than you know." Lily pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Can we show Uncle Mason and the bass?" And everyone, Marina laughed through her tears. "Maybe not everyone today, sweetheart." But Brandon met Marina's gaze. "She deserves a moment," he said. "Something to remember." Marina nodded. "Then we'll give her one." As the sun set, Lily practiced a few more small steps, while Marina and Brandon stood side by side watching her. No music now. No fear. Just determination and joy. Brandon's voice broke the silence. "I never thought I'd see something like this again," he murmured. "A miracle." Marina looked at him. "You made it possible." He shook his head. "No." She did. But Marina knew better. A miracle didn't happen by accident. It happened when the right people crossed paths at the right time. And as she watched Lily take another brave step, Marina realized the truth. This wasn't just a miracle walk. It was the beginning of something larger, something fragile, precious, and impossibly hopeful. For Lily, for Brandon, and for her. The celebration of Lily's miracle walk lingered in the air for days, a warmth that seeped into every corner of the Hart residence. Even the walls seemed lighter, as if they too carried the memory of Lily's steps. She walked a little farther each day, with crutches nearby but rarely used. And each time she took a step, her smile grew brighter, and Marina's heart steadier. Brandon's presence had become part of their routine, almost woven into the rhythm of the house. Every morning he arrived with his guitar, a soft knock and a gentle smile. Every evening he left quietly, slipping back into the shadows of his modest life. But something between him and Marina was shifting slowly, subtly, like the tide rising grain by grain, not spoken, not acknowledged, but undeniably there. One evening a week after Lily's miraculous breakthrough, Marina decided it was time to return something. Not a favor. Not repayment. Gratitude. She stood beside the kitchen counter staring at the simmering pot of soup, nervously adjusting the silverware she'd placed on the table. She'd commanded naval fleets with less anxiety than hosting a simple dinner. Lily peeked over the table edge. "Is Brandon coming soon?" "Yes," Marina said, smoothing down her blouse. "He's off work in a few minutes." Lily beamed. "Can I tell him the news? About the doctor saying I don't need crutches in the house anymore?" "You can tell him," Marina said softly. "I think he'd like to hear it." At 6:05 p.m., a knock came at the door. Brandon stood there, freshly showered, wearing a simple dark shirt and jeans. He looked Different. Not because of the clothes, but because his eyes held something warm, something hopeful Dawson hadn't seen before. Marina didn't realize she was smiling until Brandon's gaze flickered to her lips. "Hi," she said, suddenly self-conscious. "Hi," he echoed, voice soft. "I wasn't expecting a dinner invitation." "You've done so much for Lily," she replied. It felt right to do something back. Lily crashed into Brandon with a hug before he could say more. "Guess what? Guess what?" she squealed. "I don't need crutches inside anymore," the doctor said. So Brandon knelt, his eyes brightening with genuine pride. "That's amazing, Lily. You earned every bit of that." Marina watched as Lily pulled him inside by the hand, chattering excitedly. And for the first time, she realized how natural it felt, this sight of Brandon entering her home, of Lily reaching for him as though he belonged there. Dinner was simple, just soup, fresh rolls, and a roast, but the glow around the table made it feel like a feast. Brandon sat across from Marina, Lily between them, her feet swinging happily under the table. Between bites, Lily talked nonstop about school, about her next steps, about wanting to surprise her classmates at the base center. Brandon listened with full attention, laughing softly at her jokes, encouraging her when she grew shy. Marina watched him with quiet appreciation. The way he leaned in when Lily spoke, the way he waited for Marina to speak before answering, the way he carried himself with humility, steadiness, and a kind of wounded grace. After dinner, Lily insisted on showing Brandon her newest art project. She scampered off to her room to retrieve it, her steps uneven but full of life. That left Marina and Brandon alone in the soft glow of the dining room. A silence settled between them, not awkward, but charged, warm, like a moment waiting to unfold. "Thank you for coming," Marina said quietly. "Thank you for inviting me." Their eyes met, and something passed, unspoken. A recognition, a pull, a question neither dared yet ask. Marina broke the silence first. "She's happier because of you." Brandon shook his head. "She's happier because she found her courage." "You gave it to her," Marina insisted. He looked down to his hands. "I'm not used to being needed." Marina felt that deeply. "You're not just needed," she said softly. "You're trusted. By her, and by me." His head lifted at those last words. The air shifted. "Marina," he murmured her name, carrying something fragile and intimate. "Can I ask you something?" She nodded. "Do you ever think—" He paused, searching for words. "Do you ever think healing works both ways?" Her breath caught. "Yes," she said quietly. "I've been thinking that. Every day." Brandon swallowed, his voice tremoring with vulnerability. "It's been a long time since I let myself feel connected to someone. Anyone." After Laura, he stopped exhaling shakily. Marina stepped closer, her voice soft, steady. "You're allowed to heal too, Brandon. You're allowed to live again." He looked at her with eyes that held years of grief and newfound hope. "Do you think music can heal adults?" Marina asked, suddenly covering the way her heart was racing. A faint smile curved his lips. "I think," he said gently, "music heals anyone who lets it." Their eyes held. In that moment, something unspoken bloomed between them, slow, quiet, inevitable. Not romance in its loud, fiery form, but something deeper. Two broken people recognizing their wounds in each other, finding comfort in shared courage, discovering the faint beginning of something beautiful. Before either could say more, Lily returned with her drawing. "Look!" she shouted proudly. "It's us in the garden!" The drawing showed Lily standing tall between Brandon and Marina, all three holding hands beneath a bright yellow sun. Brandon smiled, but emotion flickered across his face, a mix of awe and disbelief. "It's beautiful," he whispered. And Marina realized then, Lily wasn't imagining a family. She was seeing one forming before anyone else dared to. Later, as Brandon grabbed his jacket to leave, Marina walked him to the door. "Today meant a lot," she said. He nodded. "To me, too." He hesitated, then added softly, "You don't have to do this alone. Lily's healing doesn't have to fall on just your shoulders." Marina's chest tightened. "I know," she whispered. "And I'm grateful." Their fingers brushed as she handed him his guitar case. A spark, a tremor, a promise. Brandon stepped outside, hesitating at the threshold, as if wanting to say something more. But instead, he gave her a look, warm, earnest, searching before stepping into the evening light. As the door closed softly, Marina leaned against it, a quiet smile forming on her lips. For the first time in years, her heart felt lighter. Because love, quiet, steady, and unexpected, was beginning to take shape. Not all at once, not in grand declarations, but in soft moments and shared courage. The morning of the ceremony arrived with the gentle clarity of early spring. Sunlight filtered through thin clouds, turning the Navy Ridge base into a mosaic of soft gold and pale blue. Sailors moved across the courtyard in crisp uniforms, the air buzzing with quiet anticipation. Today wasn't an official Navy holiday. It wasn't even a large public event. But to Marina, to Lily, and to Brandon, it was everything. Lily stood in her bedroom in a white dress sprinkled with tiny blue flowers, the hem fluttering around her ankles as she spun with uncontainable excitement. "Mom, do I look okay?" she asked, cheeks glowing. Marina knelt to tie a small ribbon into Lily's hair. "You look perfect," she whispered. "But do I look strong?" Lily pressed. Like someone who can walk without being scared, Marina's smile softened with pride. "You look like someone who can do anything." Indeed, Lily hadn't used her crutches inside the house for a week. Each step she took felt like an answered prayer. Across the room, Brandon waited quietly, hands clasped, eyes shining as he watched Lily's confidence bloom. He wore his simple dark shirt and a clean jacket, his hair neatly brushed. He looked restless, uncomfortable in the attention this day would bring, but deeply honored. "Ready, kiddo?" he asked. Lily nodded. "Ready." But Brandon seemed less sure. He cleared his throat as Marina stood. "I still don't think I deserve all this," he murmured to her. "A ceremony. A speech from you. It's too much." Marina faced him directly, her tone firm but gentle. "You don't get to decide that, Brandon. Not today." He almost smiled. "We're thanking you," she continued. "Not because the Navy requires it. Not because I'm an admiral. But because my daughter can walk. Because she's laughing again. Because you gave her hope when we had none." Brandon swallowed, looking away. "Hope is a two-way street, Marina." She held his gaze. "That's why you deserve this." The ceremony was set up on the central lawn of the base, small, intimate, arranged with folding chairs and a modest stage. Not grand, but sincere. High-ranking officers mingled quietly, some with respectful nods toward Marina. Junior sailors whispered as Brandon approached, clearly unsure what to make of the man who had somehow become the center of the day. But the only one who seemed completely at ease was Lily. She held both Marina's and Brandon's hands as they walked down the path toward the gathering crowd, her steps steady and sure. Gasps rose as people noticed. Lily walking, unaided. Marina's chest swelled with emotion as heads turned, whispers spreading like ripples. She's walking. When did this happen? "Is that the janitor with them? I heard he used to be a Navy doctor." But the whispers faded when Marina ascended the small stage. As she approached the lectern, the officers in attendance stood straighter, expecting the familiar commanding tone of Admiral Hart. But when she looked at Brandon standing in the front row, hands folded clearly, wishing the ground would swallow him whole, something changed. Her voice softened. Today, she began, is not a day about rank, or protocol, or command. The audience grew still. Today is about a man who reminded this base and reminded me what true service means. Brandon shifted, but Marina pressed on. For 3 years, my daughter struggled to walk. Doctors tried. Therapists tried. I tried. And while they helped her survive, she never believed she could thrive. Her voice trembled just slightly. But then someone unexpected arrived. She glanced at Brandon. A janitor, she said with a faint smile. A quiet, humble man who swept our floors and polished our halls without ever asking for recognition. A man who carried grief in silence and still found room to offer kindness. Brandon lowered his gaze. Lieutenant Commander Brandon Cross Marina said, her tone rich with sincerity, has reminded me that some victories don't come from strategy or strength. They come from love, from patience, from seeing someone's heart before their limitations. A murmur flowed through the crowd. He didn't teach Lily to walk. He taught her to believe she could. She paused, letting the words settle, and in doing so, he gave me my daughter back. Silence blanketed the lawn, thick with emotion. Marina stepped aside and gestured for Lily, who climbed the small steps with care, but without hesitation. She stood proudly at the microphone. Her voice was small, but clear. "Mr. Brandon," she said, smiling shyly at him, "thank you for helping me walk. But also, thank you for helping my mom not be sad anymore." The crowd laughed, softly touched, and Lily added, lifting her chin with courage, "I hope you stay with us, because you're family." Brandon's breath caught. The world seemed to stop. Marina placed a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. "That's exactly how I feel, sweetheart." She turned to Brandon publicly now, boldly, vulnerably. "Brandon Cross, thank you. For Lily. For me. For reminding us that healing is possible." Brandon stepped forward slowly, as if walking through a dream. He didn't speak at first, couldn't not with the lump in his throat or the tears he fought to hide. But then he looked at Lily, her little hands clutching her dress, and at Marina, her eyes warm, hopeful, open in a way he had never seen before. And something inside him unclenched. He took Lily's hand, then Marina's. His voice was barely above a whisper. "I didn't heal you. You healed me." Marina squeezed his hand softly. "But you helped us find our way back." The base commander stepped forward, then presenting Brandon with a small plaque. Not a military medal, not a formal commendation, just a symbol of gratitude from the community. As the applause rose around them, Lily tugged Brandon closer and wrapped her arms around both adults. Marina embraced them too, her heart full. 3 people once broken, once lost, now held together in a circle of warmth and belonging. A family they never expected. Later, as they walked home together, Lily skipping ahead on the path, Marina and Brandon lingered behind. Marina, Brandon asked quietly, "Yes, do you think this is really okay? Us. This, whatever it is." Marina smiled, her heart steady. "I think," she said softly, "that some things don't need permission. They just need courage." He chuckled under his breath. "Good thing we have a lot of that around here." She slipped her fingers into his. "Yes," she whispered. "We do." Ahead of them, Lily spun in the sunlight, laughing, fearless, free. The beginning of a future none of them dared imagine. A future shaped by kindness, by second chances, by a quiet man with a wounded heart, and the 2 people who helped him heal. The light around them felt like a promise, and so did they. Before we say goodnight, we'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Whether it's a quiet small town, a cozy living room, or anywhere across the world, Your presence truly means a lot to us. If today's story touched your heart, inspired you, or simply reminded you of the quiet miracles in everyday life, feel welcome to join our channel. Your like, share, and subscribe help us continue creating uplifting stories filled with kindness, hope, and second chances. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you for spending this time with us. Your support keeps this little corner of the internet warm, gentle, and full of light. We can't wait to see you again in the next story.